Grimm is 40 years old, but in 30 years later, he would look like this. Grimm has yet to say when he will retire from in-ring competition, but he has made lots of accomplishments from his own wrestling show and during his indie scenes. He is most likely retire when he turns 70 years old, although he would still run GTS Wrestling on YouTube if that happened in decades later. Pete Corvus is currently 22 years old, but when he turns 70 years old, he would look like this. He was an uprising GTS star since the wrestling ring was brought into the backyard. He's most likely going to retire before he turns 40 years old because he will spend time with his family more often, and by the time he's 70, he's most likely going to be a grandfather. Vlad is currently 24 years old, but when he turns 70, he would look like this. While he's currently wrestling in GTS, he also wanted to be a bodybuilder. One day, he wanted to step into the WWE ring like his favorite wrestler Brock Lesnar. However, if Vlad decides to hang up his boots, he won't be around for any competitions. Kurt Bale is currently 31 years old, but when he turns 70, he will look like this. Kurt Bale started to wrestle for GTS right before he turns 30 years old, but it's no secret that he won't be hanging up his boot anytime soon, because he will make his bigger impact during his indie scenes, but by the time he turns 70, he won't be wrestling after all. Jay Evans is 21 years old, but when he turns 70, he will look like this. While he has made bigger accomplishments during his indie scenes and GTS wrestling, Jay has yet to decide if he would wrestle for a bigger company like WWE or Impact Wrestling. By the time he turns 70, he would be a retired wrestler and will soon to be a true legendary wrestler. Jimmy Controversy is currently 22 years old, but when he turns 70, he will look like this. While he was on Grimm's Toy Show ever since 2014, he's no doubt to be one of the wrestlers who have made most appearances on GTS Wrestling, even though he was much anticipated wrestler who made bigger impact during his indie scenes as well as being part of the job security. He could also make bigger impact in other wrestling promotions like New Japan, Impact Wrestling, or most likely WWE. Only if he's a bigger indie stars like Keith Lee or Matt Riddle, but by the time he turns 70, he wouldn't be wrestling at that age. Hop is currently 39 years old, but when he turns 70, he would look like this. He is currently known as one of the biggest GTS stars right now, with his real-life brother Grimm. In 31 years later, he is more likely known as a retired wrestler as well. Although it doesn't mean that he won't be around for GTS Wrestling, it's no doubt that his son Enzo will most likely going to become a professional wrestler like his father Hop. Tommy Salami is currently 23 years old, but when he turns 70 years old, he will look like this. He also made bigger accomplishment in GTS Wrestling, but not so much during his indie scenes. However, when he becomes 70, it's most likely that he's retired at that age. James Ellsworth is currently 33 years old, but when he turns 70, he will look like this. He was best known for his appearance in WWE, GTS Wrestling, and his indie scenes. But by the time he turns 70 years old, he would still be known as an old jobber like Gilbert, and one of his children will most likely going to become a professional wrestler, which you may never know if that's going to happen. Hollywood Hooligan is currently in his late 20s, but when he turns 70 years old, he will look like this. He is one of the most hardcore wrestlers in GTS Wrestling and his indie scenes. By the time he turns 70, he would still wrestle at that age, but only to wrestle part-time, like the living legend Terry Funk.